Well, welcome to another rip-roaring edition of the full 80 minutes on Show Me The Money Rugby League TV on YouTube. We've got a bumper edition. As you can see, we're joined by a very special guest. It's Show Me The Money, Jimmy Mack. So Jimmy's making his debut on the show.
It's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming. As you can see, I'm here, the game caller. We've got Joe Me, and of course we've got the king, the postman, Mr. Craig Show Me The Money Harrison. Before we get proceedings underway and we talk about what's happened with an action-packed weekend of Rugby League with the Challenge Cup and the 1895 Cup semi-finals and also a fantastic weekend in League One, we just want to say congratulations to Carl. Carl, your tickets to Hull FC versus Wigan, they're in the post to you. And a very special round of applause. Only one person has got the predictions right from last week, who said St Helens ladies, Wigan to beat St Helens and Huddersfield to beat Ilkeston Rovers. It's one of your players, Craig, but fair is fair. So Oliver Wilson of the Huddersfield Giants, massive round of applause. You were the only one.
But we have a technicality, Mick.
Go on.
So the technicality is, I do believe it is Ollie Wilson who's got it right. Ollie slaughtered me after the game for saying I tipped Tulkey, and I didn't think I did. But the technicality is, you've got to be subscribed. Let's just check whether Oliver Wilson... we're not sending it, Mick. Sorry, that's the rules. Could we have a steward's inquiry, Mr. Glendon? Has he subscribed to the Show Me The Money Rugby League TV?
We are looking now. We're live. I've got the feed up here.
Because I'm sorry, if he hasn't, the box will ride another round. He's quite nervous here in Show Me Towers.
I don't know how you check.
Good radio, this, isn't it?
Right, I've got to say, based on what I can see, he has subscribed. He is one of the 842 subscribers.
You've got it.
So Oliver Wilson, this is what you've won, Oliver. Thank you to Shane and everyone at Oxon. You've won a fantastic training gear. There's a shirt there, there's shorts. We think there might be some socks. Obviously, Oxon, they do the England shirts.
Castle,
KR. So this is good quality merchandise. So Oliver, I know you watch the show because you subscribe. Next time you're at Show Me Towers, that's here for you. So congratulations.
Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah, Leeds Rhinos. But I'm quite shocked in that out of all the guesses, a lot of people were saying it'll be St Helens, St Helens, St Helens. Let's start with that first game, Wigan St Helens. For mine, one of the games of the season. It could have gone either way. In the end, it was the loose pass and the pick up by Marshall and off Marshall went. Too much pace underneath the post and that was the defining moment. Married Pete, we've spoken about Married Pete extensively on the show, Craig, but Wigan really are building that consistency now. And, you know, they're in the Challenge Cup final. St Helens have had their party pooped again. And like we said, Craig, you know, Wigan are only going to get stronger. You tipped it. You said Wigan by 8. You called this. A lot of people in the world of Rugby League are shocked by what they saw on Saturday. But you called it. You saw the signs. The building blocks were there. And what a great game we got on Thursday with Huddersfield v Wigan. But on that game on Saturday, Craig, you know, 14-0 at half-time. That, for mine, was job done. I know there was the fight back, but, you know, that lead in that first half, Wigan unplayable.
Firstly, Mick, if you'd say good things about our Predict Rugby Joe, it was a bit purple. It's really hard to live in the shadow.
Give you plenty of top with that, but your ego's
he's living in the shadow
high
of the king. So, secondly, Mick, it wasn't a surprise to me. I think, and I'm bound to say this, listen, the end of sets that Saints did were poor for Saints' standards. I thought Wigan started brilliant. They got better field position. They learned from that game when they got beat. I said to you, they'd learn off it, didn't I? That was the reason we went for them. People said Saints come back into it. They did, but theirs were like, I didn't think any tries were really set up. It become like little kicks and bounce-offs. I thought Wigan would deserve the win. I think Wigan, I'll probably go on to be 1-3, but I don't know, favourites for the Challenge Cup. Huddersfield, you know, we'll go on to that next. Matty Pete's on the verge of becoming, you know, this is a journey of him, but I think Matty Pete, we've said it before, could go on to be a super coach. He seems to have every bit of characteristics. He's done the hard work, 10 year in their reserves, in the academy, in the 16s. He's done every single job at Wigan. He told me the other day, and he's going to come on the show, by the way. But I asked him how he started, and it's an incredible story. More or less volunteering from him finishing rugby to help, and just his journey to where he is now. I think he could be Wigan will challenge Saints in the next 5 years for the top 2 club. I think these two are going to kick on. It's up to the others to catch. Mick, they deserve the win. No excuses. Saints challenge is coming because Saints were going to say this is the year we do the treble again, treble, double, whatever you want to call it, with Will Club. Now you're looking at Saints, you're thinking they had how much did they beat Salford by? 2?
14 points to 10, yeah.
Then they've had some little.
They had the defeat against Toulouse, of course. Toulouse bottom of the table,
and now he's starting to say the long-term injury to the Lewis Dodds is not having a half going to be that buoyant for them to get back on the horse. We all know they're unbelievable side, but I tell you what, there's big challenges ahead for Saints, Mick. I tell you now, and they'll be tested. They're a champion side, so I'm sure they'll answer everything what everyone says. But Wigan deserve that.
Jimmy, your thoughts on that game? I mean, like I say, it could have gone either way in the end. But credit where Wigan are due, and like Craig's just said, perhaps if you throw a Lewis Dodds in there, it's a different kettle of fish. Like you say, it's some very disappointing flat finishes to those sets of 6.
Yeah, I mean it's easy. I wasn't here making a call last week, but I fancied Wigan, but purely on the fact that Saints, a weakened Saints against a strong Wigan, the pressure being on Saints despite being a bit weak, you'd fancy Wigan with the underdogs and that extra fight, and we were good. And I agree with Craig. I think losing Doddy for the rest of this year has now made it really interesting. I thought Saints would be too good for Catalans and Wigan, and now I think it's game on. I think this Super League, as much as it's the last thing we wanted to see was to lose Lewis, but I think it makes it really close now. I wouldn't save as much in him. I think we're going to be right up there, and Catalans, they're funny, aren't they? But on their day, they can be as well. And who knows? Even someone like Warrington might turn it on, but probably not. We need to sort some things out there, don't we?
Your thoughts on that first semi-final, Joe?
Thought it was a brilliant game. Like you said, fantastic. Honestly, I was on the edge of my seat. Saints coming back. You can see why they are champions. Like showed, even that obviously they didn't get the result, but you can see why they are. They were completely outclassed in that first half, and then somehow they mustered a fight back where maybe it was some lucky kicks and bounces, but they fought back. They were getting yardage. They were in the right positions to get the fight back. And I thought, wow, that showed real heart. But then, obviously, a bit of an errant pass, and the game was over. But I think Wellesby were the big one for me for Saints. I thought he played unbelievable. Some of the defence he did, it were world class. So I was very impressed with that. And then just that Wigan team in general. For Cade, Cuss played very well. Normally he's steady in Cade, but he played very well. And then obviously they showed up in the end, so well done to Wigan. And yeah, but
do you know what, Mick? We use this platform to talk about players and talk about things, and Morgan Smithies is becoming you burst onto the scene at 17 and you do what he did, which were unheard of, to break the tackles record. I think it was 70 tackles in a game at 17-year-old, and then you get all the knockers. Then they come out with the woodwork. Oh, I don't think he's got this. He ain't got this. And he goes about. And I watched him this year. Spoke to Matty about it. I said he will push for England to be loose. He could push Morgan Knowles. They might put Morgan Knowles back row, whatever. But I tell you what, don't be surprised. We'll go back to this. He could play in the World Cup at 20-year-old.
Wow. And
I think his tackle technique and his work rate and his overall game now and the size of him, his mobility, Morgan, we might need him. Because what Morgan does is he can tackle you and absorb everything you throw, and he can slow Ruck down. Because I think his strength, he must be unbelievable. I think they say at Wigan he wrestles in the top 2 at Wigan. But I think he's becoming, and it's good to see when you see a kid burst onto the scene, and then like I said, they spend 12 months, and have you noticed, I don't know if it's this, you used to put Morgan a bit with Parkinson, a bit grubby, Willie Icy, and I can remember last year people went, they're always getting booked, they're always getting sin-binned, he looks like he's got over that now, and he's just there to play rugby and compete, and he's an absolute monster at competing.
Yeah.
He once said to me, Matty, he said, only struggle you have with Morgan is the lower teams, because he don't get, it's not what turns him on. But he says, you fire a Saints or anything, it's the opposite. A lot of players making this game, not saying they're cheap, but they'll take the lower ones and they'll perform. But you ever put top 6, we ID videos. When you ID a video, if a kid sends you clips, Mick, it's usually against all bottom 5 clubs. And he's saying, look how good I am. And you go, oh yeah, you played Blackpool. Do you get me? Morgan should be opposite. You'd send the top 4 teams and say, this is when he's at the best. Yeah. One of the things I tip, that's a tip for anybody who's IDing players, just check who they're playing when they're telling you to look for. They'll say, look for these videos. Usually you know by what they tell you. They say top 4 in their division, they're a proper man. Usually they don't make the same bottom 3.
That was the first semi-final. Congratulations to Wigan and Matty Pete. The second semi-final, Craig, you couldn't really split these two. Was this a bigger... Okay, I'll put you on the spot, Craig. We'll start with you. Was this even more of a shock how Huddersfield and Ian Watson dominated a very poor Hulkinson Rovers side? Because I think when Hulkinson Rovers come round this week, probably this morning, so we're recording on Monday to do the team review, they'll be very disappointed with how they performed, not just in one or two areas, but all facets of the game. Huddersfield leading 25-0 after 60 minutes, the game was over.
No qualms with me, Mick. I thought Huddersfield were the better team. If you went to Leeds, KR, all the signs were there, Mick. If you were there, it was shocking. It was shocking. And Leeds were poor, but they were better than KR. KR got to be careful. Honestly, they've got. I think I've just read fixture list. They've got Catalans, Cast this week at Cast, then Catalans. I'm looking at the fixtures going. Oh. I don't blame the Tony news. I think players are going to be big enough to take on board whether Tony's there or not next year. That's ridiculous. Weak players look for cop-out.
Correct.
They'll look at, you said it, Bradford, oh yeah, coach is leaving, that's why I'm mentally not ready. Come on. You want best coaching? Will 3 weeks ago. So that, for me, the players have to take that responsibility. You can't throw this. It's not a great atmosphere. Now, do I think if Tony's not there next year, can he revamp the group? They look flat to me, Mick. They look flat. They look like even the ones I picked out, Ethan Ryan and Ryan Hall. I thought them two could put their hand up. I thought, if we're being honest, the rest were pretty average. They'll know it themselves. But my fear for them, Mick, is they look like a tired squad. And I've looked at Lynette. I mean, that were a bad gamble. It was the Keith Senior. Can you remember the Keith Senior one?
Yeah.
Can you remember? Anybody else remember the Keith Senior one?
No.
In the grand final.
Yeah, where they put him
Magic.
on and
he told everyone he was injured, but he said, I want to play, and Tony played him.
Yeah.
And he got murdered.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same. I'm watching it thinking, well, his shoulder's hanging. If Kane's out for a period of time here, with the other injuries and the lack of form, your Vetties, your Tabern, here's one for you, Mick. The quota at KR, unfortunately, has not been great at the overseas. Mm-hmm. From every Kenny Dowell's been amazing, but they've had some bad ones. They've not got enough games out of Sims, Vetty, and I call it Takaranga, pronounce it. Them 3 have not been great with the value. They've got that wrong. So I think there's big things going to happen at KR. Tony were very calm before and after the game. I don't know if you looked at his body language. It was, this is a journey. This is part of the process. But I think there could be, somebody's got to press a button soon and say, lads, you've got next 6 or 8 weeks to pick this season up. Season's over, innit? What happens to it? Lads will answer this. What happens to a team? Don't get jealous, jokes. I've got Mike. I know he gets it. Sorry about this. He gets a bit. You've got, if your season's like at Challenge Cup and then you're not in that top 6, what happens now for next 3 weeks? If you lost your next 3 or 4 games and you're not in relegation battle, mate, what happens? Do you think it's hard to keep the squad? What's your answer?
Well, it is. It's got
no motivation, is
Where's
there?
the motivation? You're not going to be in the playoffs. You've probably got enough wins already to avoid relegation. Your season's going to plateau, effectively.
And really, for your fans and for your team, would you rather be in that bit for playoffs, that bit for Challenge Cup, or even fighting for relegation? You probably don't want to be in that 5th spot, bottom, where you go, oh God, season, tick, tick, tick.
Especially if you want a lad who's still playing for next year contracts.
100%.
Then you've got a nightmare when you've got players around you who you'd never want to accuse a professional of downing tools, but maybe taking it a little bit easier while you're trying to perform to get yourself a contract or find a new club for next year. That can be really tough.
I think they'll see an announcement very shortly. I'm not going to get, I think there'll be an announcement on the coach. They've probably got to do this now. Do you understand that?
Announce the new coach, bring him in?
No, not bring him in. But they're going to have to do something, and it'll be good news.
Bit of clarity on the situation.
They're going to have to bring something to settle down the work, the players and the fans and the expectancy.
Yeah. A bit like the Doctor Who announcement yesterday, even though Jodie's still in the TARDIS for another couple of episodes. They've announced the next Doctor already, so I'm just trying to put a bit of a Doctor Who analogy.
Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
They always need a Doctor Who analogy.
That was the one he did last week. What's the one he mentioned 9 times, whatever more? He's just done another one there, hasn't he? Oh, the one you said last week about the river.
No, what I said last week was...
watching James Jones Buchanan too much, you have with
the RFL have taken a lovely cruise liner from the warm, temperate waters of Tahiti. To be fair, we've had some lovely comments about that, and they love the analogy. And it's basically Captain Ralph and Captain Ken have gone full steam ahead into the icebergs, and now IMG are going to save us. But no, on Huddersfield, Craig, fantastic to see them. I know it's not at Wembley, and already a couple of Huddersfield fans are like, when we last got there in 2006, it was at Twickenham, and obviously, it'd be nice for Ken to see him actually win it in a final and at Wembley, but obviously Wembley is off limits for this year due to the Championship playoff finals, which are taking place on the same weekend. But Huddersfield versus Wigan. What's Ian Watson doing right, Craig? Because I think it was about 2 or 3 shows ago we were going on about dark horses. Huddersfield at the time they'd just beaten Catalans. They're bubbling along nicely, and I know we're going to do a preview of the fixtures coming up this week. And there's a huge game at the John Smith Stadium on Thursday, Huddersfield against Wigan. Wow, I'm going to that one. I can't wait. That's going to be bish bash bosh. But what's he doing right at Huddersfield, Craig? Because we talk about the process and being patient. Ian Watson's favourite word is the process. But they've been very patient there, and it didn't hit the ground running. They've had a lot of pain. But now you can see the building blocks, and like we say, Huddersfield, along with Wigan, are going to be serious challengers for St Helens Super League crown in October.
I think...
Yes, mate, John, not you.
I know, but what he's done is gone fishing and he's found himself a trout. I think Owen Trout has been unbelievable this year. I think he's really played. I think he's played really well.
Joe, I'll give you that one. You know what?
I've had it in my head. I want to just deliver
This is a chance.
I was out in Blackpool this weekend. You sound like one of them. You sound like one of them bad comedians on the front. No, I'm joking.
I like it.
The answer, Mick, is
everything.
No. So the answer is Huddersfield. 2 things I saw were Ken deserves that moment I thought that was the best moment at weekend when he stood with fans and they all rejoiced him. 2, Watson's just a good coach. We can say what we want about the players. I'm absolutely overwhelmed with mine in his senior, Oliver Wilson, Trouty, Joe's lovely line. We've got Ashton Golden. Adam O'Brien didn't play. We've got people in thingy. But I tell you what, Lewis Senior never played. He's just a good coach. What he did at Salford's been replicated. He got rid of the bad apples. We know who they were. He's gone, you can't go. Other clubs waiting for him. They're finding probably bad apples at their club as well, whatever. He's just a good coach. And a big up for Rich Thulis. We get some stick, doesn't he?
He does. Richard has had a lot of stick from media personalities, fans. I think even occasionally me and you, Craig, have questioned in the past some of the recruitment and the signings and the retentions, but you can see it now. It all seems to be coming together. Exciting times if you're a Huddersfield Giants fan.
Yeah, well, once you're on, I can't speak enough. He's just a good coach, isn't he?
Yeah. I thought that game looked like a very, and we have done for a while, Huddersfield, haven't we? They look so organised. They look like a well-coached team who know what they're doing. And OKR looked like a team who were a bit ill-disciplined and just were chancing it. And you always knew that Huddersfield structure would break them down. And they'll break down other teams as well, doing it. I thought after Who did Huddersfield play the week before? Was it when we played against Hull? I know Phil Clark said that there's no way Huddersfield will trouble Hull KR. And I just thought it was so far off the mark, because even when it didn't come off, it looked like it was very close to coming off. And, you know, he's got Tuilola here. We're getting booed out of Edinburgh every game for
and now
not that long ago.
Now look at him.
Look at what he can
Player of the season. Transformation
coach,
of the season.
Were you one of them who were booing?
No, never been.
You always rated him?
No, yeah. You can see signs, yeah. If you look close enough, you can. And that's the sign of a good coach, isn't it? Yeah. They can bring out good players. And that's what he's doing, and his track record's superb.
I think they're probably one exciting bit. I know two he is, but they're probably one exciting player off being right there, like up in the Saints, like Wigan level. I think they're really close now. I think they're one exciting player. I think Tuilola Hayes got his talents, and he'd probably need just someone else, just a bit of excitement, a bit of pop.
Well, McGilvery and Jermaine and Leroy have done brilliant, haven't they? But you're probably looking at a right edge centre if you brought an X Factor player in. But listen, the recruiting's good. I know at least two they've signed for next year. And I don't want to break it, but I know one of them I think's a cracking signing.
Are these new players?
Yeah, and one of them's from a top 3 club, so they'll be, you know, they're already making the moves and the shakes for next year. So listen, it's Ian Watson Wonderland, you know, what a call. But Rich Thulis has got to be given, again, to go and get Watson when he did. A lot of, let's be honest, here's one for you, Mick. Leeds' job were up. So you're looking at Leeds, why weren't they looking at Watson? Or if they did, why didn't they make any inroads? Because I would say Warrington were up. Powley, obviously.
Yeah.
Cass, there were jobs up. Rich has gone and got him. And that's what I'm saying. Gone and had the... And Watson, to leave Salford, wouldn't have come cheap. Do you get me? It'd have been a massive investment to give Ian a 4-year deal when he did, on the money he would have asked for. And it's repaying him. And it's repaying Ken, and good on him.
Just a final point on the weekend at Ellen Road. Obviously, St Helens women, congratulations on their win over Leeds. Another close fought, competitive game. The overall attendance, Craig, was just over 23,000. Look, I wasn't there. You were at the ground.
I was eating prawn crackers, Mick. No.
I watched the game. I watched it all.
I was watching it on television.
Live, I think. Were you there?
Yeah, I was on. I meant live. You know, for me, a bit of hoo-ha about, you know, it's not hit 20,000. They got over 20,000, which was fantastic. Yeah, you know, the St Helens Wigan game, it looked vibrant. The stands looked full. The Huddersfield Hull KR game, the atmosphere come across really well on television. Certainly that Wigan Saints game, if that's the first game of Rugby League you've ever watched, you're going to be hooked and drawn in. So well done to everybody who purchased a ticket and made it a memorable day. Obviously, we've had a lot of comments about the marketing and like who is actually to blame. You know, why couldn't it have sold out? Because I guess the pressing question, Craig, is, you know, you look at Wigan St Helens at the DW, that's always a 24,000 sellout. You know, there's 19,000 when it's at the totally wicked stadium, Langtree Park. So obviously, for the supporters to not travel in the numbers that obviously the RFL and even the clubs themselves probably expected is slightly disappointing, but overall the product was fantastic. But on the marketing front, Jimmy, because first time on the show, what's your thoughts on the marketing of the players and these events? Because, you know, the RFL and the Super League last week got a lot of criticism, perhaps some fair, some unfair, but for someone like yourself, who's probably, you know, been there, done that, worn the T-shirt, you know.
Do you mean the bigger picture or just on this one event?
Well, this event and the bigger picture. What more can be done? Because we know the RFL I won't use the word skint. I know you used it last week, Craig.
No, you're dropping me on into that.
Look, we won't say skint, but we'll say it's clear that the sport has lost the £16 million from the TV revenue, so that is clearly impacting marketing and media budgets.
I'll go
to
with
engage.
TV. I'm a big fan of, for not often, but Craig's thing about the superstars. I think that's massively important because, however you look at sport across this country and all different sports, football's killed them all. It's killed cricket, it's killed tennis, it's killed rugby union, it's killing rugby league. Because young kids are only interested in football stars. And to compete, you need stars. So star players is one aspect. And I think rugby league should focus on its strengths rather than trying to build up its weaknesses and focus on its weaknesses.
I agree, yeah.
You know, I think rugby league, people who aren't big rugby league fans love the physicality of rugby league and respect for physicality of rugby league. And if we can't market the game on the back of that and market it as a combat sport, and that is and it's hard with the head side of things and concussions, and it's hard, but we should really go about it that way. Most of my mates are football fans, but they love seeing clips of bigots. They love seeing that, you know, and that is the way to go. And can we get people on board and build it up more that way? But also, you need the superstars, and we need to do more. Like Craig says, it's hard because clubs want to protect them because they don't want to be adding a zero on the contract. But when you've got them, you've got to really push them.
And the worrying thing is, and let us know in the comments as well, because we've mentioned this throughout the show over the last three and a half years. I'm not quite sure how you consume your media, but I'm still a little bit old-fashioned in that I'll go to the shops and I'll buy the papers on the weekend. And what's really disappointing is we've had this fantastic semi-finals at Ellen Road, and for instance, it's up against the Heineken Cup, the European Cup in Rugby Union, but you've only got literally about 300-word match report in the Sunday Times and the Guardian, the Observer, and then you've got 4 or 5 pages on Rugby Union. We need to somehow find a way of getting Rugby League back in those papers, but my fear is when I speak to the media people at the RFL, is like the newspapers just don't care anymore. They're turning their back because Rugby League effectively is a regional sport. That's how it's seen by the Guardian, by the Times. And I know not everybody is going to buy the Times and the Guardian, but you know it is.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. It is a regional sport. It always has been, and they've tried everything to change it from that, and it don't work. So build up the region.
I agree. Play on your strengths. Yeah.
Play on the strengths. You can't just keep focusing on trying to build the game in London. Look at bless London Scholars and bless London Broncos, because they've no chance, you know. So why? I would never want to kill them off and be the man who has to do it, but why are we not focusing on trying to build up the area and get more fans interested who are in walking distance of stadiums and who are close enough, the schools that are close to the clubs, not trying to, you know, take the help away from them and give it elsewhere when it's, you know, you're flogging a dead horse.
No, it's a fair comment. The 1895 Cup semi-finals, Barrow, they've had another home defeat, doing it tough at the minute with injuries. Featherstone Rovers 46 points to 6 winners there. Yesterday, second half was really the key for mine with Featherstone. Barrow, tough, difficult place to go. You've just got to ask Ian Watson and Huddersfield. With their Challenge Cup tie, that could have gone either way. They're at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they've booked their place. The interesting one, out of the 2 semi-finals, I thought it was the Leeds-Sheffield one, because regardless of any controversy of whether the ball's been grounded or held up or not, you know, Sheffield were in that contest for 60 minutes. It was 12 points apiece, and it was only really the last 10 minutes where, whether or not I want to put my neck on the line and say Lee got some favourable calls from the match officials, which give them the momentum to take them over the line in a 30 points to 12 win. But
well, Joe watched both games, so I'm going to pass it over to the expert on this one.
We'll start with Lee Sheffield, Joe, because there's been a lot of disgruntlement about tries given that weren't tries, and Lee perhaps having a few favourable calls.
I'm willing to put it definitely. I'm not saying they were favourable or there was any bias, but that one, the try that broke the deadlock was. I think if the video ref was a thing, it would have been struck off very quickly. It was very surprising that it got given. When you rewatched it, I was a bit behind on the R-League, so I had a couple of messages going, what's been given?
Yeah. My Twitter blew up.
I was nervous what's happening. I saw it, wow, that were bad. That were a rough call, but it happens in sport, doesn't it? You know, you watch the F1 at the end of the season, there's bad calls in every sport, and sadly that is the nature of sport. A lot of times it's hard to get a perfect system. So, no, fair play to Sheffield. They played very well. There were some awesome performances from most of Sheffield's team, didn't they? They were there. They were rocking, and Lee just didn't show up. Whether it was don't want to say like arrogance or complacency or what, I don't know, but they strolled up, they were messing about, and then next thing they know, they were down, and it were on, and a few calls could have gone another way, and Sheffield could have been in that cup final, which would have been obviously lovely to say. The giants of league get beat. I know it's a bit bad to say that, but everyone loves an underdog, and it would have been brilliant. But good game, and I think good for the sport as well.
They're like that at Sheffield, as Bradford found out in round 2 of the Championship. You've got to turn up and play. You've got to turn up to play Sheffield, otherwise they will get you. They will get you. I'm not sure who has been helping Sheffield Eagles with the recruitment in the off-season, Jimmy.
Nice one.
But no, seriously, you look at Sheffield, they're in the playoffs, they're having a great season, they go to Halifax on Sunday. That could be season defining if they can go there and then Halifax's 4-game unbeaten run. But, we saw a little bit...
that could come at a worse time, to be honest, after doing Lee back-to-back. They played the last 20 minutes with one sub, didn't they?
But Jimmy, when you look at Sheffield and Mark Aston, a lot of people, myself included, whether it's a bit of naivety, I had Sheffield in that cluster with your London, your Workington, your Dewsbury to be fighting relegation. But they proved me wrong, and again, similar to like Huddersfield and some of the other clubs in the Super League who have perhaps been the surprise packages, you could talk about Batley and Craig Lingard and what they're doing, and obviously the York City Knights. But Sheffield have just gone quietly under the radar, and to compete with Lee for 60 minutes, and like we say, there was a couple of 50-50 calls on any other given day. You've got Sheffield versus Featherstone opening the Challenge Cup final. But
and I think that's for your term there about going under the radar. That's what Sheffield did, and that's what Sheffield were happy to do. I think. You look at we're not taking the credit for the recruitment, but the sorts of players that Mark signed this year are all, you look at the names, there's some calibre there. A lot of them have been England academy players, a lot of them have had time in Super League, and and most importantly, they're a real good bunch of lads who have got that togetherness, and you don't mind being the underdog, and you can prove people wrong, but they're going on a longer journey. This is a building year, and I think next year might be even more interesting. But having said that, you look at Fax, and he's been one of the best arse in the league, undoubtedly, still going strong at 49, I think he is now, and he's. You won't.
How old is he? He's old, isn't he? He's playing well.
He's integral to them. You take him out, and it's as big a loss to any team losing one player in any division. So they need to keep him fit, and if they can make a little fight of it and sneak into the playoffs, you only need a bit of luck on your day, like we had yesterday.
You must be worried. Being a Bradford fan, you just said there you've had Bradford above them before the season started. You thought you'd be well above Sheffield. But I thought they did compete for 60 minutes yesterday. I thought they looked like a team who played for each other.
Correct.
And if you look at the big hitters of that division, I'd be worried because I could see... I'd see what they did. There were one, I don't know if you saw it, where Brandon Douglas absolutely splat. I don't know if he got the... And I watched them and I thought they were having a right go. And a few of them, I think... If you were Ralph Rimmy yesterday watching that game, you were terrified. I think Karen Moros and Ralph are thinking, and this is not against Sheffield, but I think they're thinking Huddersfield don't bring a lot of fans. Let's be honest. The story's great, but Sheffield don't bring as many fans as what Lee would, and Derek sponsored it, and they were thinking, this could be a Sheffield Featherstone final, which should probably at Tottenham. They're going to play. Do you know they play before the Challenge Cup final?
Correct. Yes. It's before this year.
So I got told yesterday. So I'm laughing, thinking, "Wow, it's probably saved some marketing nightmares." Because let's say what will Lee take? Let's say Lee take 3,000-4,000.
Correct. Yeah. For a big game like that.
Still take 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah.
Let's say Wigan take 15, 18, 20,000. Then we've got Huddersfield probably 4,000 tops. So we're going to have to find 40,000 fans to make it a full stadium, Mick. That's got to come from everybody else in Rugby League and people from all over. Hopefully, we do a lot of marketing in London, because let's be honest, to get somewhere for a Challenge Cup final, that's the best area to hit at the moment. I know we're on about the Heartlands, but My brother-in-law said to me the other day, he said, love to watch a rugby league game in London. I said, well, London Broncos, London Scholars. And he went, his face turned. They could turn out for this if they can get the marketing right in London and do a lot round there. I think we can get 5,000 or 10,000. Do you know what? I said this about the semis. If you can't, if you predict that you're not going to get a full house, half house, Mick, a month before, get to them schools, get to them colleges and get a deal on. Just let's get kids in stadium. They did it years ago. I can remember when Doncaster got the Challenge Cup semi-finals. We get 2,000. I think there were so many tickets went out to all the local schools. The kids all got given a flag, whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Please don't be arrogant enough to wait till 2 weeks before and then try and flog them for. Yeah. Just go to get people and get them to the ground so it looks an occasion. This is the big one. We're going to round the world, aren't we? This is going to go, what is it? How many people at Challenge Cup final? 1 million?
Oh, over. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
What a platform.
You could talk about 700,000 people watching Leeds, Warrington on Channel 4. The Challenge Cup final gets between 1.5, 1.6 million.
Wow.
That's Rugby League's big day
what a
out.
Chance then.
And obviously, it's new ground. It's at White Hart Lane, new White Hart Lane. Tottenham Hotspur's fantastic new stadium. I've been. It's impressive. It's a damn sight. A lot better than Wembley for a visual experience. Wait till you go on the concourse and you see the bars and there's restaurants. Might cost a bit, but it's really good, Craig. Daniel Levy, the Tottenham Hotspur chairman, no expense spared in that new stadium. Have you been yet? Well, you're in for a treat. You're in for a treat. Yeah, honestly, it'll blow you.
I've been to that stadium a few times, and I'm hoping that might be a draw for some. It used to be some people would go down to Challenge Cup final to go to Wembley. I'm hoping they might sneak an extra 1,000 fans.
Fingers crossed, Jimmy.
Well, we'll go and see what they stay, because it's got the reputation as best stadium in the country now, and some people might go down on the back of that.
What's the trains down there, Mick? Give people a bit of,
Yeah, so for anybody who's wanting to go on the train from an Huddersfield perspective, you're going into Leeds and then you're down on the East Coast on the LNER, so they're every half an hour from Leeds to London on the brand new Azuma trains. From Wigan, you'll be on the West Coast, so you'll be using Avanti, and obviously Wigan, North Western, the main station in Wigan. That's direct down to Euston. So Huddersfield fans will go Leeds to King's Cross, Wigan fans will go.
And how far's King's Cross to Tottenham?
So you get on the Victoria line, you go from King's Cross to Seven Sisters, you get off at Seven Sisters, you change from underground to overground, and you get the Enfield train, and that stops at White Hart Lane.
It's easy.
Wow. It's easy.
That's amazing.
Listen, I, in another life, I used to follow Tottenham home and away, and I've been down there many times, and I can do.
You followed Tottenham, mate. That's a
in another lifetime.
Which lifetime was that?
Oh, I'll tell you about it later. The pictures are all there on Instagram if you go back enough. But yes, I used to watch Tottenham home and away. Bit of an Huddersfield Town fan these days now. But yeah, basically, I can do King's Cross, Craig, to that ground in about 35 minutes.
That's what people need to know. That's what the NFL needs.
Listen,
there's a lot of people.
That's not an excuse to be sipping round King's Cross till 2 o'clock, because on Challenge Cup final day you want to be there early. But push comes to shove, Jimmy, it's easy, isn't it?
It's easily done.
Victoria Line, King's Cross, Euston, Victoria Line. It's the blue one, straight to Seven Sisters. Off the underground, up the overground, and then you're on the overground to Enfield. Get off at White Hart Lane. And let me tell you, White Hart Lane train station, along with the ground, has just had a massive refurb, £1 million worth of refurb. So you come off the train station, you turn right, you'll see the stadium on White Hart Lane. Let me tell you, you come right and you go down this sort of short road before you get to the stadium. I forget what it's called, but there's a lovely fried chicken shop directly over the road from the train station.
They do the best.
I forget the name. I forget the name of it, Craig. But honestly, when I used to go before and sometimes after the game, it'd be chicken fillet chips and some chicken wings. Honestly, my mouth's filling up now. I'm getting excited.
Here's one on Challenge Cup, and I reckon they must have lost 10,000 fans. It used to be a Jolly Boys outing, didn't it?
From the pubs.
From the pubs in every northern town, and even I was down south this weekend, and even where I was, Kent, this gentleman was telling me that they used to have the little coach trip. Now, why why are those numbers from those lads who were not even rugby league fans, or they were fans of all sorts of clubs at all level? It used to be a no-brainer Challenge Cup final once a year. We're on the bus and we're off to Wembley and we'll pick our team on the day and we'll have a good day. I feel that that's where they've lost 10,
I'll
15,
that from
20,000.
Doncaster. The pubs are shut.
The pubs are gone.
There are no pubs. So all the pubs that used to go to Challenge Cup Day down our end, they're all shut.
So the local rugby clubs, do they still have those coach trips? I don't know.
Yeah, they're giving loads of tickets, don't they?
They do. The community clubs to an extent do, but what I'm picking up, and I tried to convey this message last week on the show, the split, and I know we don't want to keep going on about it, but the split has actually alienated a large proportion of Championship and League One fans from Super League games. So you've got Huddersfield versus Wigan, but I know you were arguing, Craig, about the age demographic, and it'll be Ernest who goes in pub with his £1.80 John Smiths, but you know, regardless if it's Ernest who's 60 or if it's Mark or Adam who's 20, the facts are a large proportion of Rugby League's reach and fan base has been alienated and turned against Super League by that split. People will be watching this and going, no, you're talking shit, Mick. Well, no, because from a Bradford perspective, and people who I know are Bradford fans who have religiously gone on these coach trips, they're like, stuff Super League, they don't watch it anymore. Yeah. You know, they're because of what's happened. And I said it to Simon Johnson. I know I keep talking about...
that makes a mockery because there's a Championship Cup on.
I know, Craig, but...
So why would they do that?
No, but that's the mindset. There's people, basically. And we'll try and get the Simon...
I think you said in the day, you might have a Batley fan...
Craig, when it was all unified...
Happily go down to watch and cheer on
the sport of Rugby League.
You're less likely as a Batley fan to go down and cheer on...
Knowing Super League are keeping all the money... Honestly, Craig, that mentality...
I think it's so small-minded, that's terrible.
Well, that's what people are doing, though. That's what
they're doing, Craig.
That's not to do with
that exists.
This is my opinion.
That mentality exists.
If that exists, it's sad. That's what we said last week. Everyone was saying, every reporter saying, and the road's only got 17,000 in. Their answer to that was to slag it off and be negative. We took the show and went, we'll just be positive and say, please come to the ground.
Yeah, hopefully we get over 20,000, and we ended up with 23,000.
Your answer about negativity in games not to be no negative, you said, you become one of them. So it can't happen.
I'm not being negative for negative's sake, Craig. I'm just telling you what I'm picking up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a load of crap.
I cover a hell of a lot of championships. So, look, as I said to Ralph Rimmer and Simon Johnson, I'd like to think I'm very good at reading the room, and that is what I'm picking up. You know,
well, they designed this. Derek Sunbed Cup is designed for the Championship Challenge Cup. It's
I agree.
Day, so
that's the RFL.
I don't want to go because I don't support Batley.
Craig, that's the RFL trying to grow the crowds. That's the only reason why the 1895 Cup is there. Because if you get lucky, like you've got a Featherstone and a Lee now, and that from a championship point of view,
it's positive.
You know, that's going to be a fantastic game. You know, I know it's only the 1895 Cup, and trust me, that game in round 15 at the Lee Sports Village, you'd probably have that above the 1895 Cup. But you know, for those fans, Lee and Featherstone, I know it's not at Wembley, and we know Featherstone had that good win against York last year. In the sunshine, I think it was 40 points to 30 odd. It was a fantastic high-scoring game. You know, they're going to go down to Tottenham Hotspur White Hart Lane, and they're going to enjoy the day, hopefully, fingers crossed, in the sunshine. But trust me, that round 15 game, Craig, that's what everyone's looking at in terms of the championship, because if Lee can beat Featherstone there, unbelievable. But yeah, Jimmy, I wanted to ask you about Sheffield just quickly. There's a lot of former Bradford players there. You look at your Liam Kirks, you look at your Ross Oakes, you look at your Mikey Woods, you look at your Evan Hodsons, you look at your Matty Crimes, you look at your Vila Halafihis. When you talk about togetherness, is that... We're not talking about Bradford, we're talking about Sheffield. We're talking about Sheffield. How much of a useful tool is that to Mark Aston? Because a lot of those players who I've just said, I think there's 7 or 8 Bradford players, they've been there, done that, they've played for England Academy, they've played for the Bulls Academy, they've come through the Bulls coveted Bulls system. And
obviously Sheffield's success to Bulls.
No. I want to get Jimmy's thoughts on it, and I'd like to get Craig's thoughts on it just quickly.
About Joe's thoughts.
And I'll get your thoughts on it then. So, look.
Joe next week, he's not looking at you.
Look, the point I'm trying to make
is... He's not come to me once.
From a Sheffield point of view, because it's very rare we give Sheffield some praise on the show, or even mention Sheffield at all. But when you look at Sheffield and you look at those players, your Evan Hodsons, your Vila Halafihis, your Ross Oakes, your Liam Kirks, your players who've been there, done that. You know, they've played in those big games against Leeds for John Keogh. Mikey Wood scored a try against Leeds in that very game. They've dealt with that rejection of being told by Bradford, no, you're not good enough for us moving forward. How much of a factor is that with Sheffield? Because, you know, you see it. A lot of those players.
If you don't answer this with none, I'm walking out.
Yeah, I don't. Against Bradford, that one game, did it help him a couple?
No, I'm not talking about.
This is my answer.
I'm not talking about against Bradford. I'm talking about when you've got a large chunk of players who've played with each other in the academy, and you're talking about that continuity.
And I think
that's a useful asset for Mark Aston.
Yeah, and there's a gang who've come from Huddersfield. It's the fact that they all get on really well together and they play well together. Does it give a bit of extra motivation when any player plays against a former club? Yeah, probably. But he's put together, well, I think what Mark's done is he's put people together, first and foremost, with a lot of lads who've been on a bit of a funny journey. He's not gone chucking loads of cash at people.
Well, they haven't got any cash, have they?
Well, again, they've gone under the radar. You look at Ben Jones Bishop and you look at Chris Wellham. They're two top players. You know, they don't get them for pennies. You know.
What I meant by no cash is they've no
Bradford Bulls for Sheffield Eagles success this year.
They've no cash, Jimmy, to be spending what I don't think
Mark chucks X amount at a deck pattern. I don't think he does those sorts of signings because he's trying to get a group of lads together who are all together and playing together in a team first and foremost, and that's what they've done well. He sent Brandon Douglas and Liam Johnson from Doncaster, two of the top few players in League One last year. No one mentioned them signings. We're sat here going, they're two of the biggest signings this year. You know, Dougie's one of the best props outside Super League for the last 5 years.
I think
there was a lot of interest last season, wasn't there? I know Bradford were looking, Halifax were looking at Brandon.
But no one's making a stir about a lot of these signings, which has worked to their benefit. You know, teams are still turning up thinking, it's Sheffield, but at that level, more than anything, team spirit's hugely important. And at the moment, Sheffield have got it.
Just a quick one. Do them being developed at Bradford in them big games have a bearing on what they did yesterday? No. Sorry, you can't get any claim on that. I know you like to put...
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't think you can, Mick. I think it's a different...
I wasn't trying to put positive spin on Bradford.
And by the way, all their journey... I know you want. It's a bit of kid. You are.
I wasn't.
The journey of them players is their own journey and their own journey. Whether they start at Bradford in academies, it's fantastic. You know, whatever. You could say at one stage Leeds, every player that were playing in Super League seemed to have started at Leeds, and Leeds were like saying, well, that's because they got the ground in at Leeds. They've all got their own journey, Mick, I'm sure. And I tell you what, here's one for you on the Sheffield one. If we go, and I'll put it to every one of you, you can all have your own answer on this, starting with Joe, because Mick keeps missing him out,
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Frankie. We know you watch. We watch to hear the lovely Joe.
If we go Super League A, Super League B, which we on this show think can happen.
Yeah, the 210s is going to come in.
Right. Answer, and just give a brief answer. A, does Sheffield get a Super League B licence, yes or no?
Based on...
And if you're going to say yeah, make sure you're going to throw out. You're not going to just say yeah because it's easy to answer.
Based on what they've done this year and what they're building, they're moving to a new stadium, I think they will find investment and they will throw money at it. I know a lot of other championship clubs are going to do the same. Next year, when this comes in, it is going to be shit or bust for a lot of championship clubs, because if you're not in that top 7, that top 8, it's goodbye Vienna. You're going to be in an unfunded third tier with no money. So, you know, that's a scary thought for a Bradford, a Widnes, a Halifax, even a York, if you have or a Newcastle. You know, you have a bad season with injuries. Based on what I've seen this year with Sheffield under the radar and what Mark's building, you know, I would say Sheffield, would they be able to keep with what Bradford, Halifax, what Whitehaven I know we're going to spend next year, because they're all in my ear. Look, Mick, we're getting investment, we're bringing in additional directors.
Without mentioning Joe Whitehaven.
But I think Sheffield would be in the top 8 next year. So
So
Sheffield,
are you giving them a Super League B licence, yes or no?
I won't say Super League B. Super League 2. Yeah,
Two.
They're in Super League 2.
Joe?
Is it... So, do you know what? Is it done on league position or just...
It's going to be done on league position, yeah. It is going to be done on league position. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it'll be done on league
I
position.
thought a franchise. So you're saying whoever
No, but there'll be no franchising. Karen said there'll be no... regardless of what IMG want,
humongous.
it's going to be done on field positions.
Really?
That's going to be the
Do you
main
know what, you
club,
might be
yes.
right, because some Super League CEO did said to me the other day, next year we would have finished in that top 10, that's the shit would hit the fan.
The RFL have told the clubs, look, this is not me breaking news, the RFL have told the clubs, because the clubs have told me at the presentation when the RFL unveiled their blueprint for the 210s, this is what comes as a surprise, it'll be done on field. Karen said, we will not be going into franchising or licenses straight away. That may come down.
So the top two Super League, the bottom two Super League
clubs will be relegated next year.
Would they go to Super League B?
Yes. So whoever is...
Two.
So next year...
And then the top 8 in Championship will be Super League.
It'll be a top 7 in the Championship. There'll then be a playoff with 8th, 9th and a couple of the League One clubs.
Breaking news.
Really?
King's done it again.
No, Craig, this will not...
What? So there's 3
let me just explain.
Probably all not true.
No.
Let him explain it because he's good at this.
I have spoken to Super League CEOs. I've spoken to Championship CEOs. They were all in the meeting a few months ago when the RFL said this is how the 210 format is going to look. This is what the RFL have pushed. Now, let's not forget, the RFL now are back controlling things somewhat with the realignment. So this was the blueprint. It'd be 2 divisions of 10, which would be funded, and then you'd have a 3rd division, which is unfunded. So effectively, you will end up with clubs, and these were Ralph Rimmer's words at that meeting, if you're an owner and you're in that 3rd division unfunded, and you don't want to put the money in, clubs will go. This, to me, is very clever from the RFL. What Ralph and Karen and Simon Johnson are doing, and Ken Davey, or whoever's going to be the new Super League CEO as part of that non-executive board, when it all comes together and we find out who the new head honcho is going to be in charge of it all, with obviously Super League and RFL representation on that new board. Basically what they're saying is, I pick up from what Ralph says, is that natural shrinkage. You are going to get clubs, unfortunately, folding. And I know from speaking to a lot of League One chairmen and League One owners, well, they're going to me, well, we're only getting 17, 18, 19 grand as it is this year, so we're not going to be going anywhere. But the problem is, when you take in the RFL and the travel bursaries and the costs and all that, listen, if you've not got money to pump in...
Is that why Derek... I seen somebody sent me a tweet of Derek yesterday saying something about the 3rd tier will still be able to apply to go into the 2nd tier.
Yes, they'll still be...
Derek was saying this on Twitter yesterday.
Yes, there will still be... There'll still be promotion and relegation in some form from the unfunded 3rd tier into what would be Super League 2. But how it's going to look, Craig, and this is how it's been communicated to the clubs, is it'll be done by on-field position. So let's just say Super League next year, your top 10, they're safe. They're safe as houses. They're in what is now going to be Super League 1. The bottom 2 are relegated, so you've already got 2 teams there. You then need to find the next 8. So what they've said is, you can't just ring fence it and have League 1 not playing for anything next year. So the top 7 in the Championship will be guaranteed in Super League 2. You then will have your 8th, 9th, 10th, and I do believe the top 2 from League 1, or certainly the top League 1 team in a playoff for that final Super League, for that final Super League 2 spot. This has all been communicated to the clubs. Look, Craig, when I go to all these grounds covering Championship, look, I've done Halifax, Barrow, I do Bradford home and away. Look, I speak to a lot of people. I can't reiterate enough. I put it on Twitter. I said it last week on the show, and I say it again. I'm picking up the Ralph Rimmer pressing the big green or red nuclear button for all this news coming out. It's just around the corner. The meeting in a couple of weeks. There's a big meeting in June. They've got to announce it now, and the time frame does fit right, because if this is all going to happen for the end of next year, if they're told now, June, July, that gives the clubs 18 months to prepare. And what I'm picking up from the Championship chairman is, certainly your Halifaxes, your Bradfords, your Yorks, your Whitehavens, your Barrows, Steve Neal, who would really fancy his chances of throwing some money and being a Super League 2 team, is they are going to go shit or bust. They're going to go shit or bust because you either throw money at it and get in that. I mean, it's going to be good news for you agents because everyone's going to be. Once this news comes out, Craig, you watch the player value is only going to inflate because everyone's going to be scrambling because they don't want to be in that unfunded third tier. Can you imagine if a York or a Halifax or even a Bradford missed out on that top 7 next year and they're not in the Super League and they're cut adrift in an unfunded third tier?
Clubs potentially go to the wall.
Clubs potentially go to the wall.
As you're speaking, if this is true, and it's
that's the proposal that the RFL.
This is groundbreaking news, Mr. Gledel. What you've done.
You've heard it. You've heard it yourself from us. You've just said You've heard it yourself from a Super League CEO. We need to be in that top 10 next year. You've heard it. You've heard it yourself.
You broke something here today, and again, just for people. If anybody does ever come for the show, Mick's on his own. Everything he said is through Michael Gledel.
Complete news.
PLC. It's his own brand. It's nothing to do with our show. So I am finished.
Feel free to
finish. But I will say this. You would withdraw some talks I'm in at the moment for players if this is true, because you're right. What that one is, if you've got some top championships and bottom 6 Super League where they this year wouldn't spend money, and I know 2 or 3 clubs who haven't spent the cap. We completely understand why they haven't spent the cap then. This is all making sense.
Yes.
They're gonna sit back and go.
And they're waiting for next year.
And it's gonna be all the guns are gonna be.
Well, I know Championship and League One clubs that have done the same, that have purposely not spent because they're waiting.
They're waiting for Ralph. Ralph's going to press the button.
There's going to be 6 teams falling off the cliff.
Exactly, and that's why Ralph. But this is.
And then a playoff to see who survives. This would be a game to see whether your club survives or not.
It's not funny, Joe. It's not funny.
It is at the moment. It won't be at the time. It'll be tears. They'll be crying.
Poor Betty. If Halifax don't make it or Bradford, it's heartbreaking.
Yes, it would be the most heartbreaking thing. That's crazy.
So if you've got this has been interesting. So you've got 3 Cumbria clubs who, let me finish this one, historically would be in the, let's say, the bottom half of the championship.
Yes.
Historically, over the last 10, 15 years. They'll all go guns blazing.
Well,
certainly Barrow
and Whitehaven will, because if Workington Town get relegated, as I suspect they will do, they're only hope.
They're safe for a championship in that playoff. Would that not be tactical? I've been Champ 1.
No,
but with £500,000 budget, you can still get in that way.
I know that. Well, yes, Craig. But what I'm trying to say is, you would not.
That's a bit fast for you. That
you would not. No, but Craig, you would not want to be. You would not want to have a 1 in 4 chance of being promoted into Super League 2.
Let me finish. Against the Champ 1 teams, if you had a bigger
budget. No.
Workington
are going to get relegated at the end of this year. I'll put me.
They'll then go with Doncaster in the Champ 1.
No, they go against the bottom championship.
They'll go against the bottom championship teams
after next year.
So the League One's gone.
League One's gone.
So it all depends.
No. Craig, next year Workington are in League One.
Yes.
Let's say they finish top.
I know what you mean.
They will play the teams that have not got in that top 7.
Yeah.
So there could be an Halifax, a Bradford, a Newcastle in there.
Come on.
What if you're Workington, you're Chris Foreman, you're taking your chance playing a desperate Bradford or an Halifax or a York or a Batley that's not got it.
I'm going to play them anyway and have to do a full season. I've got more chance of one-off game.
Craig, no.
I
disagree.
I disagree. You'll see. Let's see if they're in top 7. Then you answer your own questions.
I'm disagreeing with that.
I think every club would try and hang on to the 7th spot.
Why wouldn't you try hang on?
But I'm telling you now.
I'm not going to do it. All 3 of them are not going to get top.
I won't name the championship chairman.
Well, stop, because I'm going to confront this. So you just said, I reckon all 3 can get in the top 7.
Not all 3. Okay,
no, you did when you said that.
No, I said one of them can. Yeah, 1 or 2 of them can.
You slipped that. When I say, because then you've got to get rid of let's go from the favourites onwards. Hopefully we're not.
Yeah.
League, who might go up this year. So I'm let Lee
or
off
Featherstone. Yeah.
Well, let's just assume Featherstone go up.
Yeah.
Let's just assume Featherstone go up.
So you've got Lee,
and Wakefield have come down.
Yeah. Lee, Wakey.
Sorry, Michael.
Lee, Wakey.
York.
So you've got Lee, Wakefield. You've got York.
Halifax.
Sheffield.
I'm not confidently saying
Well,
Sheffield.
forget about don't
Yeah,
throw
but
it under the
just
bus.
hypothetically.
Yeah,
Put your-
Like Sheffield,
you'd have Bradford in there. You'd have Newcastle as well, because I know Newcastle are going to throw serious money.
Serious money. So
Newcastle
that's
next
nine you
year.
mentioned
Newcastle
without
next
the
year.
Cumbrians.
Without Newcastle will be $1 million plus next year.
Right.
When this is announced, Newcastle Seymour. Newcastle Thunder fans get excited because Seymour, he will get that checkbook out and
Jordan will kill you.
he will make sure, Seymour will make sure, and Dennis and Eamon, they'll make sure Newcastle are in that top
So
7.
you mentioned 8 there without the 3 Cumbrian teams.
Yeah,
and that's without.
Oh, you
Bartley.
think are above the Cumbrian teams?
but no, I don't.
Go on then.
I don't. For the love of sake, I don't think Sheffield are above. I think they're in line. They've had a good season. White even made the top 7 or 8 last year, doing the same thing, going under the radar, having some good.
Well, it's a bit pity because it sounds like we might lose.
We're going to lose.
Historically, we could lose 2.
They are a fellow aware that Craig, ever since COVID, Ralph Rimmer has told the clubs and the owners, some of you are not going to make it. We have to.
Well, it's most, isn't it?
We have to restructure to survive. And I know people will say, well,
Keighley are coming up.
Look. I use the
Keighley
analogy.
spend
I
serious
use
money
this.
next
I
year.
use this diabetic analogy. You know, look. If you've got diabetes and you've got a bad foot, you lose your foot. Then you lose your arm. You know, to me, and I understand the frustration from some Championship chairman and League One chairman. This is cannibalisation of the sport, but. The sport is in such a poor, desperate place. It has to survive and then start to thrive. And what the RFL and IMG and everybody behind the scenes have been looking at this is, we need 2 10s. They're saying the sport can only afford 2 10s. And they want, ideally, the strongest 10 clubs in each division. But the problem is, Craig, without going to franchising and licensing, which Karen has totally dismissed time and time again, it has to be done on-field performance. That is the number one indicator. That is the number one indicator.
Let me put a scenario to you. Mark Sawyer, friend of mine.
He's a good friend of mine.
Well, he's not, but he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine.
Right, I'm going to call him up. Mark, Craig's saying we've fallen out. No, joking.
No, so Mark, he gets relegated this year. Okay? He's in Champ 1 next year. They then become 4 to 5 favourites to win the championship.
Yeah.
They then get put in the championship playoff game with whoever's dropped off in that.
Yeah. Your 8th, 9th and 10th championship teams.
You're saying Mark would rather be in the championship spending £1 million on the shit or bust getting the top 7 than do that. Let me tell you what Mark will be saying. I'm right, because I'd do exactly that. I'd be like,
but the chances, Craig,
or you're going to throw $1 million and try and compete with him.
Well,
Mark ain't got $1 million.
I know Mark hasn't got $1 million.
But then, what's the? Why would
It's not a one-off game.
You're gonna have to spend a serious.
But you have to, because there's Keighley, there's Swinton,
Jimmy, you've been quiet on this. Who's right? Me and Joe or Craig? Because I'm telling you,
I understand what Craig's saying, but I think to guarantee top spot in League One,
top 2.
No, it's not about 1 going from the, or even.
Well, at the minute, on the original proposal, it was for 1, but I know League One clubs are saying it has to be 2. So you might end up with 8th and 9th in the championship. Correct. And the top 2 from League One. Yeah, exactly. So that way you've got 4 fighting it off for that last Super League spot. Listen, that is absolutely delicious to me.
I think it would be.
It's the ultimate shit or bust.
It would be if it was £1 million game, which lives are on the line anyway.
Well, livelihoods.
I know Joe's nervously laughing before about it because it's so mind blowing. But you're talking there. The £1 million game was bad enough. You're talking there about this. Probably is if you don't win this, the club is doomed to amateur rugby for the rest of its life.
No, they're saying this is what Denny were on about the 3rd tier. So you probably need more information on
the third tier will be unfunded, but there will still be. You can still put your own cash in. That's what Ralph has told the clubs.
Eventually, there's only like the Derricks that will be able to afford that. That's just slowly to everyone.
Well,
maybe for the season after it'll be okay, but then 2 or 3 or 4 years later, all of them are eventually just going to lose more and more money till they go.
Unless you've got a
Derrick, that's what I'm saying, so they can get back up. But
my thing, me then personally. If I'm a bottom 2 club in championship tactically,
I'd try get that top 8.
Not you. Tactically, I would do it. I'd take my chance the other way.
But there's too many.
Because I reckon unless you tell me Doncaster are going to spend 800 grand.
But Hunslet if Keighley somehow don't,
Hull's got to spend 300 grand at most.
Swinton, there's
against the ones in Championship who could throw nearly $1 million at it, I'd be thinking I can get it top 2 there, and I'm on a one-off.
It doesn't matter which way you look at it.
That's my opinion. That's my.
But the bottom line is you're going to have to spend X amount to get the team you think's good enough.
But I'm saving $500,000, aren't I?
Look, because you're still going to have to beat. If the 2 teams that come down have spent $500,000, you're still going to have to spend $500,000 to beat them in the playoffs. So
100%.
It doesn't matter.
But I've got chance on one-off. It doesn't matter for me.
It's how much you're willing to spend to put together the best team. Because even if you've ended up coming 8th in the league, you're still going to have to beat that team. If you've come first, you're still.
But
going
I'm
to have to
saying,
beat that team.
other than throw it at it to get in the top 7, I like the chance of the shootout in the OK Corral on the odd games. I'd rather take
it doesn't
a
make
chance.
a difference.
If
You
you're
have
in
to
the
spend
four,
that
it
much
doesn't make a
money.
difference.
Everyone's have to spend that much money next year.
Just whether you want to be on a winning mentality.
While we're talking on this, you're all agents. Am I right?
Well, the guys
when Ralph presses this button and we know about it's all on, like you say, Craig, a chairman at Super League's already said we need to be in that top 10 next year, or otherwise we're going down. Everybody behind the scenes knows this is happening. It's coming in. Is this going to inflate player value? Are you going to have? Is this going to be your Indian summer?
Well,
knowing some poor clubs are going to go out of existence.
We don't think like that here.
No, I know. You're a man of ethics and empathy.
The companies doesn't think like that.
No, I know.
Short term. Do I think there'll be inflated prices behind panic? Of course there is. So there'll be a slush of players now if this comes out, or will have a higher value. But it's probably the ones who haven't been picked up. It's that September player who usually might think, oh God, they might become from 30 grand to 60 grand overnight. So you could get a player who's going to get released now, who now Newcastle go, is he getting released? How much do you want for him? And suddenly that 30 grand he got at Newcastle could be more because it becomes a value asset. The top players are all tied up, aren't they? Most, you've got like 6 or 7% of players will become available at the end of the year. I think that player will become, if that's true what you're saying, that's the one who will become a very expensive. And I tell you what, some of these top academy who are not going to get a game, we probably got 30 players who potentially won't play Super League next year, but by God, they'll be great in Championship and learning. I'd go and find some of them. If that were me now, then having a club, you just mentioned Dewsbury or a Whitehaven, I'd go and say, how can I get him? And I want him here for next year, and I want him permanent, or I want him on a year's loan. I've just done a year's loan for somebody now for next year, I can't mention who. Probably on the lines of that, they probably outthought me, but it's like, can you get me in for a year, but I don't want no callback? And we're like...
Is this Super League to Champ?
Yeah.
So already people are knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. But the Super League club have to have a callback, because if they get a massive amount of injuries, but they're going to try and secure them. They don't like that 2-month or that 2-game rule. They're going to try and secure them on 12-month deals. But we've probably got 20 to 30 now who would be able to play. Like, I did something with Ford the other day. We did some chatting about where you'd put your players. Fordy could probably retain 95% of York, and the only players he's going to bring in are players who will enhance. Are going to be better than what he's got. That's what he said. I said, well, good luck on that, because I reckon the ones who are better than what you've got are tied up in Super League. You'd not very few will fall through the tree. There might be 20 a year who fall through the tree. You get me?
Yeah.
But it'll excite. You know what? If they do it properly, and they get all the clubs to buy into it, which you know what's going to happen, it'll be doom and gloom, and this is what Joe, you know what you're saying. But actually, if they do it, you're probably in for the best year in history on the back of a World Cup. You're probably in for the fight at the OK Corral. And you know what, Mick? We should have had it years ago. Let's be honest. You know when everyone said the game's dying, and we say it, everybody says it. Jimmy's made a speech, why this, why we all do it. Probably needs a panic situation to get everybody
to get
the cards out, innit? Because people have just been holding back for so long, and dipping the toe in, and how much do I need to survive? What do I need to survive? Because I don't know if there's any point trying to go. This year, this Championship year, has just been, as much as we're still loving it, and there's some brilliant games, it's a bit of a joke, as much as ever, because Lee and Fev are in this weird battle of just trying to outdo each other. So at the start of this year, what have Bradford got to play for?
Don't say that. He thought they were there.
What have York got to play? But really, if you know as much as we know...
What of Halifax? What of Bradford? Yeah, you're right.
One sec. All the next teams who we know, how much clubs are spending. We know very realistic things. a lot of fans don't. If you're a Dewsbury fan, with the amount of money that they've had available to spend, sadly, all you can do is hope to try and avoid relegation. Lee's got a task in his hands to try and avoid relegation. Some clubs thought they could mix it with the big boys, but it's mad because you can't. You're fighting to try and get as high up in the playoffs as you can for what? One more home game for a bit of cash? You know, and that's the situation this year because some clubs are like, maybe next year we can have a go, but what's the point this year? So until we get to the situation where it's like, if you don't go this year, it's all over, then at least we know where everyone stands. Not trying to work out who's going to come down, are they going to spend as much, have we got half a chance?
Would the great, your friend and a friend of the show one day, Mr. Nigel Wood, do you think Nigel sat back now
100%.
loading up his guns?
100%.
Wow.
100%.
Everyone's getting ready to go, aren't
You speak,
Wow.
speak to every club in Championship League.
There you go. Joe's saying it.
Every single club I've spoke to, it's all loading up for next year.
For next year, everybody. Nigel's not going to...
Every club has got a bank to the side that they have saved for next year. Every club has got a wallet.
The minute Ralph presses the button and he says, we're live, this is what you need to do next year to survive, be in Super League 1 or Super League 2, shit or bust. Honestly, I can see it. There's no other way of calling it because if you don't spend the money, like Jimmy says, you've got Featherstone and Lee this year. They're over £1 million each on the cap. What? How does Halifax? How do Bradford? How do York?
I spoke to Halifax. They think on a one-off game they've got a chance. The problem is for Rugby League, if one of them clubs did beat a Feather or a Lee, we're picking the piece up of a Feather or the Lee because they put everything in that basket. And if they did get done, God help one of them clubs. Because
Derek turns into Lord Lucan, doesn't he?
Well, no, because he doesn't. Because he picks it back up the year after. We said that he's been there 7 years, so he somehow puts his money where his mouth is. So does Mark. Somebody though, you know, if they do get on a one game, but your chances are they're not, aren't they? Let's be honest. I think from this, if this goes out, and we will send it to the Championship clubs, I think we do scrap it now, but we'll do a separate show on it and probably invite a couple of chairmen and coaches and say, Dave, do you want to talk to us? If this happens, and I think we need to get their clarity on it, not what they know, but what they do if they dare talk about it and say, I'm going to, because I know what Ford is. If you spoke to some of them, a couple of them told me their budgets, they think it's not nowhere near that. So there's some people not aware of what you lads are on about. Because they told me they're only getting another...
Yeah, but we're talking... This is you need a budget to get into the top 7, don't you?
We're talking about a budget, Craig.
You're not trying to get to 1.5 million to get promoted.
But
you need
if
600-700
if everyone raises the bar, your bar's going to be raised. But I'm on about...
It's just going to be more of a level playing field. Recently, it's been... You've got a couple at $1 million, a couple at 500,000, and a few at 200 grand. Next year...
What does Sheffield... Do we know what Sheffield spend?
Yeah, Sheffield won't be a million miles. There'll be Bradford and Halifax, and then York and Sheffield.
Yeah, but Sheffield... So York are only 250, 260.
Yeah, a bit more, and then Sheffield are probably similar.
When you look at the table, York for mine in the Championship, and I've said this, and I'm not saying this because obviously I'm a mate of Fordy's, but when you look at York just behind Lee and Featherstone, if they're in the table based on what they're spending, when you talk about cap spend, it's unbelievable. James Ford, what they're doing at the York City Knights, you know, they're head and shoulders. They're doing what Batley were doing last year when Batley were fourth in the Championship. Well, Batley ended up third. You know, unbelievable. But
said this last week. I agree.
But there's only if you were to pick two teams that are underachieving on spend, you would only say Bradford and Halifax were, but now Halifax are coming good. So everyone's kind of performing
where they are.
If you wrote the table out at the start of the year of how much each club spent and did it in order, this table this year will finish extremely close to
correct
that, with the chance that York, Batley,
everyone,
possibly,
and
York,
Fordy have overachieved,
but York last year they
underachieved.
I know
they underachieved.
but they had more bad luck
With
than
injuries,
everyone
yeah.
you could ever imagine. I know everyone has a little bit of injury problems, but York season last year, that would never have happened.
I did ask John.
Keighley. So Keighley, if they win champ, which Keighley are now the favourites champ one, am I right?
By miles, yeah.
So they've threw the kitchen sink at it this year.
Well, Mike Smith knows. Keighley know what is happening with the 210.
So let me
that
put
is
it
why
this way.
they're going
Keighley throw the
effectively
kitchen
shit or
sink,
bust.
they're effectively going into the championship.
Yes, yeah.
Are they going to have to throw another $500,000 on top to
stay in
the
top 7? To stay
in the top 7, yeah. So that's why. Listen, look.
Another 300.
You've got Rochdale as well.
300.
Don't forget Andy Maisie and Rochdale. They're going to do the same.
Joe's going like that, thinking, yeah, get it. And Endo start ringing me, so like, ring the towers.
I thought Show Me the Money was a company of everything and ethics. I hope you're going to be there when Mark Sawyer's phoning you up crying that his 25-year investment in Dewsbury's gone down the pan because they've missed out on the top 7 and they've lost.
Luckily, Mark earns about 200 grand a year that car boat and all the gyms and all the facilities.
But it's
self-sustaining. I'll tell you what I'll do for next show. I'll speak to Mark and ask him what is tactically as a chairman. Where will he be next year? Will he spend $500,000 next year?
Invite him on the show, Craig. Invite him on.
Well, I will. I'll certainly, but I think we do a separate show and get them on, and it'd be brilliant. That I'm sure, Sam, we can make that work.
As soon as it's confirmed, as soon as the structure's confirmed,
amazing.
it'd be great to see what people.
And let them debate. We can actually pull out of this. Mick, you could set it up with them. We can. Riveting watching for the show. It can be a separate one for the content. And it'll be riveting to watch and get at it. And somebody asks some straight questions and say, "Are you going to pull the trigger?" And what we're saying after today, then, do you know what? It could be complete sense because I saw Doncaster's result yesterday. Did you see Doncaster's result?
Yeah, got smashed by North Wales.
Not North Wales. They're going.
No,
yeah.
that's why I said I shouldn't have said Keith because North Wales also. It's them to.
Yeah,
it's
so
them
I'm
to
saying.
Sorry, Andy Mosedale. He's another good friend of mine.
Did
you do much dealings with Andy Mosedale?
As a company, no.
Andy, I'll see Craig's number. You might need some players next year.
He ain't got my number, so he won't be sending that. Right, move on, Mick. I love that.
But yeah, the exciting thing is next year could be the most level playing field championship we've had if people go.
And even League One, what we're saying, yeah, and even League One, everyone's gonna have to.
You're going to have to get your cards.
So the Derek Mark Campbell competition this year could be 8 of them all stood there.
Yeah. Boom, boom. Mine's that big.
The worrying thing. This is where look. This is where I think Nigel Wood has been very clever at Bradford and also Halifax in not spending that money. We know Bradford obviously.
He's got 100 grand of halfbacks, though. It's hard to say that. Jimmy.
I know. We're talking about the 100 grand with your Deck Pattern and your Lilies, but what I'm saying is, Nigel could have pulled the trigger and he could have joined that Lee Featherstone. Probably not to perhaps the funding levels of what Mark and Derek are pumping in. We know. I mean, Derek messaged me over the weekend. They've still got another NRL player coming in. Mark Campbell says, well, we've got another one coming in for that round 15 class. This is getting stupid. We've got an interview coming out with David Fafita in the next couple of days on Show Me the Money Rugby League TV on the YouTube page. And I asked David a question, not in that interview, but I said, David, when you look at what Wakefield are spending, David said, yeah. He said Lee and Featherstone are probably spending more than Wakefield now. It's absolutely scary. But my worry is for Derek and Mark is they don't need to do this because let's say Featherstone go up next year, Mark's then got to pump more in to keep them in that top 10 because if they're finishing the bottom 2, they're back to square one and you're probably thinking logistically like Nigel is, well, I don't need to go. I don't need to spend this money this year. And I know some fans might say that's a lack of ambition, but I think it's smart. For clubs like Bradford, Halifax, York, who don't have a big money backer.
Your problem is you might lose 1,000 off your crowd by the time you get to next year, so financially it could be hard.
And if you do get promoted, you're guaranteed to at least make one of them, aren't you?
Here's one.
Super League, you're guaranteed to make Super League B, we're saying, so you might as well.
Here's one from then. If this is going to be the new rules, here's a tip to every chairman. You'd probably then go and buy, if it were me then in Championship next year, I would go and buy probably 1 or 2 players who will guarantee me top 7. Because when you're that good, you can be better than the standard. I once seen Danny Maguire. I seen Featherstone side that won back-to-back championship come to Leeds, and Danny and Rob Burrow put 50 on him for Thingy's testimonial, and Danny was stood with ball in one hand spinning it, and it were like and I'd actually called that I thought Featherstone had given him a game, and then as Danny walked past me, he looked at me and winked, and I went, so what I'm saying to you there is, you want the year you were there, you're alright, it's not
No, but how are you done You've said Danny. I'd expect Danny Maguire to have a championship team on.
No, you're not with me.
Every day of the week.
So when you've got now, I would say
But let me finish. Now you'll be able to buy a Danny Maguire.
No. This is what I'm saying to you.
You'd be able to buy.
Would you not spend if you're going to spend $1 million? Would you not go? All right then, I'll throw this in, and he'll kill me for doing it. I daren't throw it. I'll think about it. I've got a top player who would guarantee any team top 7 because he'd be that good. Would I risk 120,000 to give him a 1-year deal? Would I?
Here's your problem.
If I want top 7, I'm going 150.
But then one injury, and then it's all over.
I'm not bothered. I've got a player who can.
You've got to be bothered. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Well, I'm telling you now.
It's all over.
I'm telling you now. Forget about
Good
that.
night, Tyree.
You're not
injured halfway through Achilles goes. Good night, Tyree.
So you've just said
Ring
there. Let me finish. You've just said there. Don't do that. Clubs have done that historically. They've invested in big players to try and move the franchise on. I'm saying. You just said Bradford have got 250 grand, quoted 250 grand halfbacks, yeah? And the
roughly.
And the 9th.
Well, yeah. Well,
and the 8th in league. I'm saying to you, there's probably 6 players, Super League or that thing, we're deciding whether they renew the contracts with the Super League club. And it could be there last year or 2 years, but there's still enough guns in. Would you, if you were a Newcastle, not throw a guarantee?
The problem is there's no. York last year lost Morgan Smith and Brendan O'Hagan, and it killed their season from being top 4 to down there. Yeah. The risk is if you put 150 into a Super League halfback, they only play 7 games. You are then not in the top 8.
As an owner of a club, what I've done it, I don't think you can go into thinking that mentality.
But why would you rather spend?
Because you might not get the top 7.
I'm saying to you, I think
can you imagine the heartbreak and
But it makes sense that they do it on one-offs when there's not as much on the line as there will be next year. If you do one-off and you have 4 or 5 games with someone awesome in your team, and you're like, it was a shame he got injured, but I'm not relegated. I'm not gone as a team. You're gone.
But effectively, Jamie Ellis and respectively Morgan were awesome again yesterday. It wouldn't be of the calibre of somebody, either culture or bring it to the table. I think some of these big hitters, if they're going to spend anything like 800 grand, there's not enough good players to spend 800 grand. They'll all be going to Australia, New Zealand.
You get one.
I unfortunately don't agree. I would go for 1 or 2 in this country who are out of contract and go for it, because if you're going to spend 800 grand on a cap, where are you going to get the players from? They're not here.
Well, here's an issue. In the Championship, the quota is unlimited. So at the moment, Liam Feather going bang, 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 Australia. Whoever goes up has got to go, see you later, U6, because we can only have 7 of you next year.
Correct.
So next year, I'd love to see the RFL say the Championship should have a quota, because we don't want clubs splashing money left, right and centre, getting Aussies in, when it's a perfect chance to bring in the English players who are top academy players and not allow them to turn. You cannot allow a Championship club to sign 12 Australians next year. You can't. This year they're doing it. And
but they'd have to do it. They'd have to do it because they won't be the quality about to spend 800.
Well, then you'll have what's happened in England's Premier League, where every England player's worth treble the amount that's happening.
But there'll be even less quality if they don't start giving players games and bringing on the. Yes, of course, there's lots of quality in Australia. I'm not saying that, but this is a chance to start giving English players more.
I wonder why some clubs have given 2 or 3 year deals then, knowing this were going to happen. Is that risky?
At what level?
Championship.
Let's if they think they're the good.
But imagine where you sat with now if you've got.
Which clubs though, Craig, and which players?
I won't lie, I don't ever call that. It wouldn't be my style to say, oh, by the way, why have they given him a 2 or 3 year deal or a 2 year deal? But I'm saying to you now, based on the standard next year's going to go up, you're reflective, you're saying we could have 8 clubs that wear Liam Feather nearly out this year, which the standard is going to be absolutely shockingly high.
I think there's going to be more clubs at 500,000. rather
Right,
than...
going to happen.
No
The
one's
standard's
going
going to
to
go.
want-
Well, if Newcastle,
I don't think
look,
Featherstone has spent 1.1. I can tell you they haven't.
If Newcastle are spending about 600 this year,
Yeah.
I think that's the level you're going to be at.
There's his
to
200 grand on
guarantee
accommodation.
Yeah. No, but to guarantee a top 7 spot and a Super League B or Super League 2 place, you're going to have to spend $500,000,
Yeah.
600k.
But this is the exciting bit is I think a lot of clubs will get up to that $500,000 mark who've usually been hovering around the 300. But when you get to that, even if Paul Dewsbury is still there with 200 and Batley don't get, or for example, or a Workington if they survive, or
If a Keighley come up, they'll go for it.
The difference is a 500 grand doesn't guarantee anything against a 300 grand. A 1 million does.
Yes.
So next year there is going to be upsets because they can upset them, but you're going to have everyone on a more level playing field. There's not going to be a million difference between the top and the bottom.
I just had a text off a top player who's watching this live.
You can't.
Let me touch.
That's a ridiculous statement I've ever heard.
And he's... Sorry about that. No, we'll do that afterwards.
No, go on.
No, I'll be ringing them. Joe's just killed it.
Go on.
You know, when he was a kid and I used to tell him stories and he used to say, Dad, but they can't be a fairy or they can't be that. I used to like to Joe, they can't. He told his sister there were no Santa Claus. He tantalised her with exactly the same line. It's just, he did.
No,
I can get her in now.
No, I didn't.
She come running in crying and she said, Joe's told me there's no Santa. She was 3-year-old.
Well, look, we spent a lot of time.
He's just devastated. I've ruined his story. He's making it up. He's got to pull one thing out of my arse and then I'll pull another two to make it funny.
Keep saying swearing. Right, Mick, come on, finish off with some questions.
I was just going to say, obviously we spent a lot of time on the 210s and it's going to keep bubbling away because it's going to be seismic.
I've got a conversation topic if we've got more than... How much have we got left?
Got about 3 minutes left.
Oh, have we?
8 minutes.
The conversation I want to say is, as being around the clubs and helping with showing we work with a lot of the young lads, we've gone from a bit positive and left to a bit negative. The reserves comp has been... We discussed it, didn't we, pre-season when we first got back the show again. It's been exactly what we didn't want it to happen. There's been certain clubs that have only played 3 or 4 games. 3 or 4 games. These young lads, we're talking about who's going to spend money in Championship. These poor lads, I get what Jimmy's saying, to be honest. I thought it through because these poor young lads in the reserves that should go Championships and have a good deal and have the chance are not going to get that because these clubs have got to go on the evidence of 4 by the end of the season, 4 or 5 games this whole season, which I think is a massive travesty. So I think something quickly has to get done, and I don't think it will.
It's a great comment, and we'll discuss it. And I got a message from John Bastian that we can actually play because John's really not scared but terrified that they don't go through with it next year and year after. He's seen games have cancelled because no doctor.
No doctor.
Been condition, no pitch, not allowed on pitches. We can name 8. But let's just use to give people an idea. And this is where your plan of what you said is going to happen. Why are then? We've got Adam Rusling, okay? And this is let's put it out there. He's at Hull KR full-time, we're at Cass full-time, played first team when he was 17-year-old. Talented half-back, great hands, lovely kicking game, really control about his play. Every day he's played training with the first team at Hull KR, and by what they count, and what we're getting, he's holding his own with Rowan, Mike, he's not... They can put him in he's played 3 reserve games this year. We've been to 2 of them. He's been outstanding, St Helens, and they got beat by Wakey, but he actually had against Lino. It was a really good game. We've tried to get Adam a contract loan deal to go and play Championship, even Champ 1. And the coaches are saying we're reluctant to take him because, as you've just said, there's these 3 games. The other games is academy. Now we tried Dewsbury, let's say Dewsbury or whatever. Well, I'm not mentioning clubs because it's not fair, but we tried some clubs last week, and they're still scared of taking that. Now, why are they not then thinking, if I could get him in here and get 10 games, when we do pull out the guns next year, I've got this halfback who I can build something on. Or are we going to get... would they rather do that than spin Jamie Ellis round again? Jamie Ellis is safer bet than putting time into Adam Rusling now for next year because, and this is not against any older player, but I'd be looking at Adam going, if I can get 10 games into him now, even if I'm champ 1, I can get 10 games in. Next year, I know it's going to be sensational. He's going to be able to play the standard easy because he's had the games, he's had the... Do you get me?
I wish they thought like that. I wish.
But it's hard because if you take, and this is play devil's advocate, when they take a player, because the club can call them back after 2 weeks, they have to make the decision, do I piss off 4 lads who I've had fighting for a place all pre-season, working hard and doing all they can, even if he is better quality, and then bring him in, and it takes a couple of games to get used to the system, and then by the time that's happened, they've been taken back, and then I've got a lad who's pissed off. I've got to put him back in, rejig the team, and it's tough because there's no guarantee that they can have. If it was you've got him for 8 weeks, brilliant. I'll take him. I can put him in, give him 1 week to find his feet, and then go. But the short term 2 weeks doesn't allow a Dewsbury, a Whitehaven, a Worthington to go, of course we'll give him a go.
I've had no one ask for more than the 2 week loan deal though. Why wouldn't they come up to me then and say that?
I think most clubs will not. I think that's just because that's how it is. The parent club will say, we want to bring him back whenever we want.
But if I had an eye on next year, what I'm saying is education-wise, I've got an eye on next year. Yes, I might have him for 2 weeks and then they go and play reserves. But by the way, we're all going to fight for on this show to keep winning for next year. We've got to get the reserves because otherwise we'll lose 50, 60 players to the game. Especially with the gunfight at the OK Corral coming. You're probably going to lose even more if you don't have reserves because they won't even going to gig anywhere. Yeah. Because it'll be panic. And development doesn't come with panic. Development comes with long-term thinking. Yeah. Panic comes with get your short-term players in quick and get as old as you can who can play. But I mean, we really need to look at it from a player's perspective. If Joe was put rightly so, this reserve comes been an absolute joke. Yet some of the games have been fantastic. Some of the talent coming out of these games is incredible. And I've said it this morning, and I've used this quote 5 times in the last 2 weeks. When a club's having a contract talks with a player, I said, don't worry, there's hundreds of players out there. Stop hanging up on this player. You'll make yourself bad and you'll put yourself 30, 40 grand overs. Here's what we've seen. And look how good this player is already. You falling asleep, Mick?
No, I'm listening.
Did you drink yesterday?
Pardon?
Did you go for a drink yesterday?
I had a few cocktails.
Sammy's just done that thing. Come on, when he looked at me then,
I was listening to you.
You've gone Bridlington knowing there's a big show.
I didn't go to Bridlington. It was Blackpool. It was Blackpool.
To fail. You've been on piss yesterday at Bridlington show.
No, I haven't been on the piss in the middle of the show.
Knowing this show's coming, Sam, I want him tested.
No. I enjoyed the warm weather. Lovely day out in Blackpool. I was back home on the 7:20 train.
Were you making a big point, really?
I know, Craig. I was listening to you.
See it. Last time he did this with Jordan on, he fell asleep and it got about 20,000 views. I was thinking if Sam could just get him falling asleep, we could get views.
I'm not falling asleep. I was listening to your argument about the reserve and Adam Ruffling.
What do we do about these? What do we do about them then? Because I'm scared speaking to them every day. Everyone's petrified for that reason.
Well, they're not petrified because the clubs are the ones who'll answer this. Are they prepared to put 200,000 into reserves next year? I spoke to Matty Pete on Friday about it. Matty said they dare not cancel the reserves. It's in there. Don't worry, Craig. It is in there. You were there when I asked him. When he said that Wigan are one of the clubs who've actually been brilliant.
Oh yeah, I give him credit.
Yeah. So bottom line is, Matty said it's impossible to cancel the reserve comp. I think I've spoke to other ones and
the less key
and the less thingy because the chairman don't want to give the budget again. And by the way, there isn't. Let's be honest here, Mick. If we're going to do the gunfight at the OK Corral, every reserve player will probably be needed to go into that as well, because there won't be the players. Even if we go fishing in Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Fiji, we haven't got enough players if they're going to all pull the trigger. I'll tell you now, because there'll be 200 players who are not good enough to play champ who are playing there now.
Yeah.
There'll be some players there who next year they'll go, listen, I'm sorry about this.
Oh.
The guns are blazing next year, you're miles off. Then they usually drop down a tier and they go to champ 1. Do you get me?
Yeah, no.
So there'll be some. It looks like it's going to be the busiest time in the history of the game for every agent. I would say if this information is true and it comes out in next 3 weeks.
The only thing is, I spoke to a couple of clubs that still are waiting for the decision. So that's what I don't think some clubs know this, Mick. Whether
it's not confirmed. That's the proposal.
That's the proposal. What the RFL have shown the clubs, that there would be 2 divisions of 10, and they'd get to the 10. Super League.
But if so, don't they need to now the transfer market as such is open?
That's why.
Confirm that really quick so people.
That was the point I was trying to make when I speak to all the Championship owners and some of the Super League CEOs and chairmen at the lower end of the Super League table. They're all preparing. They're all ready for it. One Championship chairman, who I won't name, has already said, he's out there canvassing other people, former directors, businesses. Do you want to get on board and pump some extra money in next year ahead of the 210s? I'm only telling you what they're saying.
Yeah.
There's no smoke without fire.
And the biggest question on that, the biggest question on that is what they're all scared of. This is what a chairman told me last week, and again, I won't quote him. What will the split be from Super League 1 to 2? They're saying it all depends on whether you want to be in 2. If they give 800,000 from the Sky deal, and that's 1.2, some clubs will be all right going into Super League B. But if this is 1.6, which is what he quoted, and this is 450,000, then there's going to be even more pressure, you get me? So if they reckon they've already proposed the split, the first figure went in, there was absolute hell on at saying what they get out of the TV deal, because they want the Super League A to be even higher. So if they put 1.6 on that, the standard's going to go up again.
Yeah.
But they don't want the gap to be B. How much money are they willing to throw at the B?
I heard, Craig, and this is, don't forget, next year we're in the final year of this sort of padded out 2-year deal. IMG are coming involved. We don't need to go through Tahiti and all that again. But IMG are going to drive the structure. They're going to drive the broadcasting negotiations. What I think is going to happen is there'll be a very slight moderate increase in the television deal. So it'll go from 24 to perhaps 27, 28. And you will see that reflected in a bridging of that original proposal, like you say, 1.6 to 450 or 1.2 to 450. What I certainly was told, what they thought were fair, it should be about 1.5 and 750. So if you get to that, let me tell you now, if you're a Derek Beaumont and you're a Matt Campbell, you're an Ian Crode at Halifax, you're a Nigel Wood at Bradford, your Christmases have come together if you're in that 7.
Yeah.
Do you know what's fascinating about what you're saying there is...
No, that's on the back of selling this new vision of the sport, the 210s. There's no excess baggage,
Yeah.
There's no League One to worry about because Sky are only going to broadcast teams from both competitions.
But what you're saying is, last week on the show, we said something which is even more relevant. I don't know what word that is, but that is, if you only get 4,000 people at a stadium, but you get 500,000 watching, you said it's more important for the future of the game we get the viewers again.
Correct. Yes, because
now that's what you're saying. It becomes more and more.
That drives the broadcast deal, Craig. The more people that watch the sport, the more people that you can sell commercial revenue and sponsorship.
We're moaning about people going round, but we want to be saying, as long as you watch them, if we get the figures for the semi-final, you'll get them today, won't you?
Probably Wednesday. I think the RFL send out the...
I'm sure you can put something out for Sam, a little bit of content.
Yeah, 100%.
But if we get the figures and they've broke all the records, but there's only 22,000 at Ellen Road, we should be cheering, not being negative.
Yes,
am I right?
The viewing figures, yes.
But they won't produce it if the stadium's empty, so we need to put them in smaller stadiums.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, I get that. And I think there's an idea for that where I think they're saying that if you did 2 home ties in the semi, you guaranteed sellouts at either one. I think that me and Matt Shaw talked about it, right. Friend of yours. We talked about it.
Me and Matt haven't talked for a while.
No, me and Matt Shaw talk serious stuff. Is
when I'm on the piss in Blackpool on the cocktails.
So what I'm saying is they've stood there and that they said home ties to guarantee a sellout. So if you drew St Helens Wigan and you drew home tie Wigan, it'd be a sellout. Home tie Saints. Huddersfield probably wouldn't be, but Ulkiad sold out within 2 minutes. Yeah. So that's what they might have to do on the split. But it is interesting about the viewers because it becomes so important that their marketing drive needs to be on views, not people going... Am we making sense there?
Yeah. They both support each other, but yeah, that's it. More than ever, it's important to get this deal.
Yeah, because we've got 5,000 at £20 a piece. 5,000 people at £10 a piece, what does that make?
50 grand.
£20 a piece.
100 grand.
Right. But the TV deal's worth treble that for the viewers.
Exactly. That's what I said, Craig. The sport has always been propped up. Ever since that first Super League deal, the sport has been propped up by the TV deal.
When we had the money off Sky, we could focus on getting the crowds in the game because we had that comfort blanket. Now that comfort blanket's gone, it's like, well, we need to refocus on this again, isn't it?
And the return on investment is at 50%, which is the crowds, the social media metrics. You know, the RFL are going to put the squeeze on the Super League clubs under this restructuring because, you know, your Salfords, your Wakefields, in my opinion, have got off lightly. Huddersfield as well in terms of crowd and what they do in terms of their engagement, because to me it's unfair for Championship clubs to be hit with 50% for low crowds, poor commercial revenue, financial irregularities, when the Super League clubs have got away scot-free. But obviously that's going to come in for everybody, and that's exciting because that'll drive the standards up for every club, because if you're wanting that central funding and you want, 50% of 750k is a lot of money, 50% of 1.5 million is a lot of money, but if you're wanting that full chunk and not to be penalised because you're only getting 3,000 people in your stadium on a Thursday night for a Sky game, well, you've got to up the ante. You've got to up the ante. You've got to grow the sport. The clubs have to work with the RFL on this, Craig. They've all got to work. They've all got to work together to grow the sport. Not just take the Sky money and I'm going to we're getting 1.5, but I'll only do a 1.2 cap and we'll chance it like they've done for years.
Do you get a 3 to 5 year deal? Do you get a 3 to 5 year deal?
Too many of them have been in the comfort zone. They've taken that money. They've taken that money and they've got nothing to show for it.
You have your own club, right? Have you said? You ready?
What are you on about my own club? I'm
just getting wound up. Have you? Can I ask you? Will it be a 3 to 5 year deal?
We don't know, Craig.
Right, so the length of it will be...
You would expect, if you're selling this now, IMG are talking to Sky and broadcasters, we're going to 210s next year. You're going to have...
No, next year, year after.
Year after, yeah, for 24. That'll be 24 when it comes in. This is what it's going to look like. You've given us 24 million for, obviously, the shit show of getting rid of the Super 8s and all that lot. You're not happy, you don't want loop fixtures. What are you giving us for this? You're basically sort of like regenerating the sport. Going back to Doctor Who again, the Doctor regenerates. The sport of rugby league's regenerating. This is the 1995 Super League Big Bang moment. Yeah, because Ralph is pressing that big nuclear reset button.
But I'm looking at the camera now, and I'm going to say to an investor of any club now, if you're an investor out there and you like to put your money into sport, this is the time to do it.
Correct.
Because if you went to somebody and said you fancy putting 200 grand in here, because if we get this, we get 3 years guaranteed this, you can pay me back on my investment, and I've got the share in the club.
And that's what
probably the best time ever. You're going to get people.
That's
to
what
invest.
That's what one championship chairman told me.
Love it.
He told me, I don't know what they're spending at this moment in time. I suspect around 200, 250. But he told me if this, when it goes through, which he expects it to do, along with everybody else, he thinks he can get an extra 150 grand in from other directors, former directors, just to see if that club can have a fighting chance of being at a Super League club, albeit a Super League 2 club. And that is what's going to happen, Craig.
That must be Dewsbury.
No, I'm not saying any names. I'm not saying any names. But listen, if the proposal turns into reality and you get the 210s, it's on. Well, it's on, Craig.
Listen,
it's on.
We'll finish on this. We as a company, first of all, we're gonna do the thing, but we as a company are in a fantastic position here, because one of these two guys or one of us, I can just see a vision there. We have a bit of a laugh which players we have. Ultimately these two lads are going to be full-time agents next year. They're going to come, but at the moment we sign it off, we get the work done. Jimmy could be getting... Sheffield could have a statue or a thing with Mark Aston and Jimmy next year like this, or could it be Joe at Whitehaven, is it? Somewhere along the line there's a script to be had here, because the lads are... Do you know, this is true, because an agent, lads will tell you, we deal with every club, but I've said this for years, you do have have you found both? You have a sensitivity with people you get on with and people who trust your vision, and you buy into them and you prefer it. That happens, Mick, with every agent. So it'd be interesting, even agent-wise, Mick, which agents choose which clubs to go, here, do you trust me? And they go, yeah. And you go, right, I'm with you. Because that's what'll happen here. There's only so many agents, Mick. So a company like ours, you probably pick your corners. Do you know what I mean? Because you do make you have clubs who don't really interest in what you say or do.
What happens if it's me versus Jim in that playoff?
Look, we'll end it on that. Jimmy, thank you very much for coming on the show. Craig,
Pleasure.
Joe, just a quick one. We have Huddersfield versus Wigan on Thursday, St Helens Hull on Friday. Big game in the Championship on Friday night. London against Newcastle. London had that big win against Dewsbury last time out. Newcastle, they've lost the last 3. So Newcastle are on a bit of a downward trajectory. Can London pick up their second win on the bounce at home? Also on Saturday, 2 big games on TV. One's on our league, North Wales against Oldham, and you've got Catalans against Warrington again on Sky. And then on Sunday, it's a huge Super Sunday. I'm going to call it Survival Sunday, because you've got the bottom 4 teams of Salford hosting Leeds. Salford beat Leeds 26-12 earlier on in the year, and you've got Wakefield travelling to Toulouse in what is arguably the game of the weekend. I don't care what anyone says. You can talk about Bradford versus York. You could talk about Widnes Whitehaven, even Keighley Rochdale. That's a great game on Sunday afternoon at Cougar Park. But look, Wakefield beat Toulouse, because if Toulouse get their second win of the season, it is on. Because Leeds, an ever-improving Leeds, if they go to Salford and beat Salford, all of a sudden, Salford are in a rut. They're losing consecutive games, albeit they're not getting pumped like we saw in that heroic performance against St Helens. You've got Wakefield, they're on the losing run. Willie's under a lot of pressure, because if they've gone there, that's basically giving Toulouse 2-point gap between them. We said to David Fafita last week, Wakefield go there. That for me is Toulouse down. If Wakefield go there, Toulouse are down for mine.
Toulouse play Huddersfield the week before the Challenge Cup final.
Correct. And like I say, but Jimmy,
that could be 2 points to lose
Jimmy,
like that.
This game on Sunday is massive, because
I'm not denying that.
Wakefield go from 6 to 8, Toulouse stay on 2. Toulouse win, they go from 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 2 points the gap. 1 game's the gap between Toulouse and Wakefield. Honestly.
Can we finish the show? We always finish the show, Sam, on a competition.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put together the competition prize, and it's a Challenge Cup show overview. So 2 Challenge Cup tickets to the final.
To the final at Tottenham Hotspur.
We'll donate to anybody who answers this question.
This is the question.
Jomi, your question. It's your turn this week to put a question.
That's for a big prize. I better think of a good question. He's just
we'll do it separate. We'll do it separate at the end.
How many cocktails did I have in Blackpool yesterday? If you're on your Instagram, you might be able to count. No, I'm only joking.
If you talked about your reserves passionately, give us the best answer. We save the reserves. What do we do?
We did that.
We've done that one.
We've done that one. Right?
I will do. You probably have to go deep on your rugby knowledge here, so we'll get a proper rugby league purist. Who has been the best performer in the reserves league this year? That's going to be a tough one. So that's a really.
But how
we judging that? How we judging that?
No, we didn't. I want to give.
Oh, you have to justify it.
Yeah, you have to put a justification.
And no first team players who've dropped out. Yeah, it has to be
who's been a young lad, a brilliant
fringe player or
don't have to be a show me lad. You know what I mean? No one, no favouritism. Just who can give the best reason for someone being the best reserve player this year. You'll have to know your rugby in and out. Let's give it a go. See who's been watching everything.
Wow.
See who really knows the story.
So Mick, say that again, and what have they got to do is subscribe.
Subscribe to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. You've got to be a subscriber, and as Joe's just said, we want you to name a player who you've seen in the reserve competition this year. The reasons why he's a standout player. And the best comment, as picked by myself, Craig and Joe and Jimmy, will win 2 tickets to Huddersfield versus Wigan at Tottenham Hotspur's impressive White Hart Lane Stadium on, I do believe it's Saturday the 28th of May. Well, I know we've talked about the 210s again, but get ready, the 210s are coming. And the ripples are about to turn into huge tidal waves and tsunamis that are basically going to engulf the Championship. Listen, who knows what's around the corner, but the RFL have proposed it, and I think the clubs like it, especially those clubs that fancy the chances of being in that Super League 2 and potentially getting 750 grand. But from myself, Joe, Craig and Jimmy, enjoy your rugby league. We always do, and we try to keep it #positive rugby league. We'll be back next week.